Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is In A Barbie World.
The podcast where we look at every Barbie movie from 1987 to the present day.
From fairy tales to literary classics.
From Mariposa to Mermaidia.
It's time to get unboxed.
Readjust your lippy.
Rock the ball gown.
And let's get our Barbie on.
Barbie in the pink shoes. I assumed that this would be a take on Hans Christian Andersen's The Red Shoes. And it's not that, but it's more Barbie and the Wizard of Oz-ish.
It's, well, what it is, it's a return to the series for director Owen Hurley, who made all the ballet ones before, the Nutcracker and
Swan Lake.
Swan Lake, thank you. Yes, and it's I think you're absolutely right. Wizard of Oz is the closest thing it's got going for it. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I didn't really like this very much, but for reasons I don't know. How did you feel about it?
I have been trying to think about how to tell you that I want to put this at number one.
No! Oh, well, it had to happen.
Yeah.
It had to happen.
Yeah.
25 episodes in, I was thinking about, is it as bad as some others? But let's have the conversation and see where we moderate ourselves to.
Oh boy. I am biased in that I love ballet. I love Barbie, and my favorite thing in the world is Barbie Ballet. And I felt that they took everything that they'd been trying to do before in a lot of different movies, such as two Kens trying to have a banter and be a duo, to the animation of the ballet, to a presentation of ballet as a story, and they just did everything fantastically. Like, if I was a teacher and I was just going down the list of this movie, it would just be tick, 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 tick. And I think that the animation, especially of the ballet, is just seamless. Like, I don't know if it was rotoscoped, how it had been previously in a lot of Barbie ballet movies. If it was, it seemed flawless. Like, it was just gorgeous to watch. I was engaged the whole time. I loved that she changed costumes. I loved that her hair changed. There were so many outfits in this, and they were all ballet outfits. I loved the friendship. I loved the characters. Everything about this movie.
Okay, so to answer your question, yeah, motion capture was a ballet dancer called Janelle Manzi. I don't know that off the top of my head. Had to look it up. But she was one of the... So there's a documentary on the DVD of Barbie and the Nutcracker, and she was one of the ballet dancers that was in this documentary called Living a Ballet Dream. 6 dancers tell their stories. So it's all sort of come full circle. So I will agree with you. Actually, I thought this is one of the best animated and actually one of the better looking movies. I am not a ballet man, right? At all. I'm not Rudolph Nureyev, sorry. But I did think the dancing actually was particularly well done, because I think sometimes that has been a bit of a flaw. Sometimes they look like they're dancing in the air and, you know.
Yeah, clunky, but it's very smooth here.
Yeah, I thought it was very nice. I think I've got two broad issues amongst others. Is firstly, I didn't know one of the ballets. I'd never heard of it before. And obviously it's not Swan Lake. and so when I looked up about Giselle, I wonder how many 6, 7, 8-year-olds know Giselle, because that's
fascinating, isn't it?
That's a not safe for work ballet, right? That's a and they do hint at it by gurning.
They very much hint at it, and I was like fascinated by the hinting, and I was like, wow, what the hell is this ballet about? Because I knew of Giselle as a ballet
Mm,
in the same way that I know of like Coppelia, which would have been a far safer choice for them.
mm.
Go do the like ballet where the girl doll comes to life for the toy maker or whatever, or even the Nutcracker, and they make allusions to the Nutcracker. I was hoping for more famous ballets,
Yeah,
but it's fine.
yeah. It's
And Giselle is to go so hard on Giselle, and I wonder if it was to get those two Kens, because I wonder if any other ballet has the option to have two sparring love
I
interests.
think you're probably right. I mean, they only sort of do the first act of Giselle in this, and the rest of it is kind of. They, if you know, you know, right? But I did feel that was a bit weird, so I felt a little bit excluded because of that. And then
Mm.
I'm sorry, but the Barbie, the theme of this movie is do your own thing, express yourself. Yeah. And I'm sorry, there's only one art form in the world where that does not apply, and it's ballet. Literally, it's a constrained and it's about the dedication and the following it. You can't just do your own thing in a group dance world, right? And yeah, I just thought you can have that, but just don't do it in ballet. And I think because it's at its core it was flawed, I really struggled with it. I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone at all,
Like,
but in that feeling.
oh.
But do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you because like in the first 5 minutes she has to get some new ballet shoes and she starts putting them on and I was like, I'm pretty sure you can't just throw on a new pair of ballet shoes and just hit the dance floor. Like I'm pretty sure you have to break them in the most severe way, like literally snap them in half and like beat them around and wear them for like 8 weeks before they're danceable.
I'm
I don't know that for a
Oh, I'm
fact.
sure.
But
No,
like,
I think you're right. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been involved in ballet, and I didn't do it myself, obviously. But I've got two young daughters, and a niece, who've all been in that dancing for sure. Has been in their world, but ballet is really hard, and it's a really, I think
it's disciplined.
it's a discipline
and so
that's
to have the main character not be disciplined
is counter. Now, if she was training to be,
I hear you.
if she was going to be a jazz dancer or a freestyler, and that ballet wasn't for her, that would have been perfect. But instead, yeah, I don't know. There was that. So that's my problem. Is that Giselle, a ballet I didn't know, and then when I did know, I thought, really? And it's funny you said Coppelia. They used a song from Coppelia later on. I mean, it's and we've had Swan Lake before, but that's okay because that was 10 years ago, right? Or longer even, I think.
Swan Lake is tragic.
Oh, Swan Lake's very tragic, but again,
Just because it happens at the end and you don't have to be confronted by Odette's ghost for an entire second act.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, I thought technically it was good. I just had this real fundamental dislike for what its theme was. On the other hand, there was plenty to enjoy, and
Exactly.
I think it might work better as an adult than a child because it does have one of my favourite characters in any of the movies.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who that is?
Surely Haley.
The Queen of Snark, Haley, who is
Like,
I don't know
she's
what
wonderful.
I don't know what her job is at the ballet school.
She's a costumer.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I'd forgotten. I did watch it again this afternoon. I've watched it twice, which is more than I've watched some of them. I couldn't, but I was working at the same time, so I missed it. But yeah, but her job just seems to be the voice of reason and snark.
And it's so reasonable. That's why I think you can bend your theming a bit because the rest of the movie is so grounded. It makes so much sense as to why Barbie doesn't want to take the pink shoes off, and so much sense why Haley figures it out and keeps insisting. And she's like, okay, going through the motions of the ballets and like Just being so realistic and so grounded in that
Because
reality.
Barbie's thick as shit in this movie. I mean,
She
obviously,
really is.
obviously she's been enchanted or something like that. But my God, if Hayley wasn't there, Barbie
Mm.
would never. I think this is a really high concept. I mean, we'll talk about the plot, I guess, but this is the highest. I said to you last night, didn't I? I said this
Yeah,
is a high concept movie where
it's insane. It's literally like they're at the ballet school, they're getting ready for a showcase. You're introduced to all the various characters that you know are going to become relevant later on, and we'll go into them. But then she breaks her shoes and needs a new pair. The main costume lady hands her what is clearly a pair of magical pink shoes. She puts them on, and her and Haley are transported into a different world. This world is the world of ballet, in that, much like how in Lost in Austin, she finds herself at the beginning of Pride and Prejudice and has to work her way through the narrative, we find ourselves at the beginning of Giselle, and then we have to work our way through Swan Lake, and then we go to the Snow Queen, and all of these things. However, everyone in the ballet world also knows that they're in a ballet and they have to do the moves for the ballet.
they're like
Like, it's not like
trapped.
they think they're in Giselle. They like know it's a ballet.
Yeah, it's like this world where all the ballets exist, and everyone's kind of trapped in their own ballet, but they're
It's
not.
fantastic if you consider that like Rothbart hangs out with the love interest from Giselle. Like, that's really fun as like a crossover. There's so many
I
ballets,
kind
and
of
to
like
put them
that.
all in a world, it's wonderful.
So there's a comic book series called Fables by a guy called Bill Willingham, where
Mm.
he says posits that all fairy tales exist, and they always have, and the characters kind of interact with it. I mean, in the comic book, they live in our world. It's very similar to that TV show. Was it Once Upon a Time?
Once upon a
Which
time, yeah, that
which
was
has the
really good
same thing.
until it got bought by Disney.
But Fables existed before then. I don't think it's necessarily a particularly original idea. I think other people have done it. But yeah, I kind of like that there's this sort of patchwork world where they all exist.
Mm.
But the thing is, it means all their lives only exist for like 4 hours and then they must reset. That's the bit. And so therefore, I'd like to have been a bit darker, but it's all right because
I think
Haley's
it
there.
leans.
Well,
Yeah, it's not.
Haley's right there with the snarky explaining to us what's dark about all this shit. She's, believe you me, she's got some strong views about the legal age of marriage.
Yeah. It's so, the concept is so fun, and because Haley is there, we get to have so much fun with it as a modern audience, and yet also get to delight in the ballet, which again ties into the overarching theme where at the end, yeah, the best prima ballerina is picked up for the lead role in the touring production, but Barbie then gets to be collaborating with this international dance troupe on a new ballet where they're bringing all of the old moves but in a fresh new way, which is exactly what this movie does, because we've seen them do Swan Lake and it's very old Barbie, it's very early 2000s Barbie. And it seems completely alien to the Swan Lake that we're presented with in this movie, where the Kens seem more up to date and the villains seem more up to date, and the like, I found it really interesting very early on that the prima ballerina has a man in the audience, and it's her dad, and it's like a stage dad. Like, we're all used to the concept of a
Oh,
stage mom, but it's like a stage
that
dad, and I've never
again,
seen it before.
again. There are bits in this movie I loved, right, and then I'll counter it by saying bits I didn't like because having the pushy dad, loved it because the
Mm.
pushy mum is such a trope, isn't it? It's a
Hmm.
worn out trope. It would have been fine, but we'd have rolled our eyes and kept on going. But the fact it's a pushy dad at the ballet,
Hmm.
right? He's the one. Obviously, he's a bit of a, you know, I think he's got like a Bluetooth headset in or something like that. There's stuff
He's a
about him
knob.
which instantly dislikable. On the other hand, his daughter, is it Tara? Is that her name?
Tara, yeah.
Yeah, isn't in the rest of the movie.
Well, She's a really funny one where, like, the reason they have this setup is so they can go on to be Rothbart and O'Deal in the Swan Lake segment, which
indeed,
when it hit me, I was like, oh shit, of course. Like, that suddenly makes a lot of sense. I'm an idiot.
Their character models are in this. So, which again is why it's like
It is
Wizard of Oz. Yeah. But
and you were there, and you were there.
But yeah, I hit my head and I had this imagined. Yeah. But Tara is a bitch and a cowbag.
Yeah.
And therefore, because she's not in the rest of the movie, really, she and her dad don't learn anything. So,
well, what actually happens is that she does. Like, we meet her, and she's like, I'm the best ballet dancer in the whole wide world, and you're stupid. Get out of my way. I need to work hard. Then we go off and have this Alice in Wonderland adventure, and in it, she is the O'Deal character. So she just turns up to deceive the prince at the party, dance the Black Swan dance, and then she gets usurped by real Barbie, and she runs off crying. When we meet her again in the normal world, it's like she's learned a valuable lesson because she's just really nice and supportive, and it didn't quite make sense, and I'm happy to overlook it, but it might need to be added to the roster as a reason as to why this movie is a bit suddenly like, oh, wait, what?
Right, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think you're being very you're being very supportive of this movie.
I loved it.
I know, and that's fine, and we can have a debate at the end of the show about that. I just think some of this has been done better before. However, I know what's going to happen. The more we talk through the plot, the more bits that I actually liked will be highlighted by you, and I'm going to completely soften towards it. What I will say is it ain't going to be number one. But it also isn't going to be number 25. This is our 25th movie, right? Whoa. So we've seen a lot over the last couple of years of these films.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long we've been doing it. It feels like a couple of years.
I think it is a couple of years.
And, you know, there have been ones that have made me angry. And you angry as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's not my problem with it. My problem with it is one of it's a bit like one of those ones, you know, Magic of Pegasus, where we saw another script revision.
Yeah.
That's what I feel about this. Yeah, it's nearly there. I fun and everything I've got a problem with could be fixed by a sentence here and there. Yeah, like if they said, Barbie, you can't do your own thing whilst being a ballet dancer, but your choreography skills are amazing, go off and be a choreographer. That's where your soul is, right? And we could have done something like that.
Do that.
It is kind, but it's sort of
close.
Right? Yeah, but that's an easy fix. I fixed the movie in one line for my biggest problem, and I think we've had a few like this, that where you're the core thing that you want to say is absolutely fine, right? On the Barbie movies fandom wiki, right? Just about every movie, it shows what the end credit quote is. The which is sort of like the pearl at the center of every movie, and this one is listen to the beat of your heart and keep on dancing. And I don't think this movie really does that. I just don't think it's
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas others, I don't know, others talk about believing in yourself and forgiving and being part of a bigger thing. That's the other thing. Ballet, you are part of a big, I don't know, there's just something not quite right. And it's a shame because it's really well made in this sort of second era. I think that's what we call it. We're still in the second era of Barbie movies, and they've been very mixed. They've either been brilliant or terrible.
Yeah, literally.
And this one, I think this is the mid-range one. That'll be where we put it at the end, because Mermaid Tale was shit. Mermaid Tale 2 was fantastic, and I feel this sits between those two. So that's where we'll find it.
Because I was thinking it's got the sort of it's got the humor of Charm School, and it's got
Mm.
the fun characters of Mermaidia. Like it feels so fun and enjoyable, and it's funny. Like, and it's they make ballet jokes. Like one of the characters in Giselle is called Hilarion, and that's sort of established to the audience, so then they can make the joke, that's hilarious, and he goes, no, I'm Hilarion, and you're like,
Yeah, there is.
middle class jokes.
It is possibly the most quotable movie that we've watched so far.
Yeah, and like highlighting the tragedy of the ballet as well. Like one of Haley's lines, Barbie is just like completely enamored by ballet, and it's really lovely seeing Barbie in this very sort of like non-Mary Sue, like Mary Sue role, but in a way that like works, because it's so can get a bit tiresome for Barbie to be perfect all the time. And she's perfect here in quite a dull way, because she's like, oh my gosh, we must be in Swan Lake. Those are the swans that have been enchanted, the local maidens that do the dance, and this will be the lake that they swim on that's made of their parents' tears. And then Haley's like, I'm sorry, what? What's the lake made of? That's fucking disgusting. Are you insane? And it's like, oh, I didn't know that. And she's like, I missed that part of the story. And I was like, I didn't know the lake was made of the parents' tears. It's cool and dark and weird and fun, and I love it. And then it comes back when they have to swim in it, and she's like, ew, parents' tears. And it's like, hey, this is fun.
Actually, I'm thinking about it. I think there may have only been one other movie where Barbie is it's quite ignorant. And she's not a horrible person. It's not like evil Barbie from Christmas Carol, where she has to go through a sort of a character refresh. This Barbie's just pretty fucking dull, and all she likes is ballet. And yes, she wants to go off and do her own thing, but actually she lacks understanding about ballet. She lacks discipline. Blah blah blah.
This is the thing. I think this character can be justified, and everyone's like, Barbie, why don't you just do the steps? And she's like, oh my gosh, when the music starts playing, I just want to do my own thing and I can't stop it. And everyone's like, well, stop it. You're at an established ballet school and you want to be hit up by fucking scouts. So do this. And she's like, oh gosh, I just love ballet so much. And it's like, how are you still here?
And if it had been more Red Shoes like, that would have made a lot more sense, because
you wanted the costumier to be
she wouldn't have been able to stop dancing. She wouldn't have been able to stop the
and then perhaps the lesson would have been that she needs to learn the actual steps, and going off on your own is dangerous. And it gets your feet chopped off.
That's a very well, the reason your pink shoes will go red with the blood. That's that's what the red shoes is, isn't it? It's the blood from her bleeding feet. But so maybe, and again, I'm going to give them credit, because they have sometimes, in some of these stories which are clearly taken from nursery rhymes and fairy tales and historical novels and things like that, they have kind of gone away from, they've turned it on its head a little bit, whether that's by gender swapping or changing key bits of the story. So in this sense, we all know where they're going with the pink shoes, right? Everyone knows. 6-year-olds won't understand, but we as parents, that's what we are now. We're parents, Emily, of this podcast baby. We understand that our podcast baby isn't going to understand all of this, but we can. So quite some of the best kids movies operate on those dual levels, don't they? Yeah. And I did see I'll review somewhere on Letterboxd where someone described it as Barbie Shrek, and that's a classic example of where Shrek, you can watch Shrek and enjoy it for the funny donkey and Shrek farting and things like that, and then us grown-ups can look at
that's Michael Eisner, the old CEO of the Disney company.
Or we can have a laugh at what the gingerbread man goes through and things like that. They're operating at quite a different level. But then Shrek the books, which existed before the movie, were like that as well. That was part of the joke. But
oh my god, have you seen how that ends? It's like God hated Shrek, so didn't want him to get married, so they had to find a crocodile to marry them. It's a quote from like Shrek things. It's crazy.
It's dark. Anyway, come on. We've only just got into Barbie Land, haven't we?
Yeah, so we turn up and it takes Barbie a long time to realize that she's clearly Giselle and needs to be in the ballet. And she's just excited to be there. And Haley's the one that's like, please, can we leave? This is really mad and I hate it. And we're introduced to the villain, which is the sort of main teacher of the ballet school here as the Snow Queen, and it's just like such a fucking vibe to see my bae back in her rightful place. Sorry, Elsa, we love you, you LGBTQ plus queen, but like I love my villainous Snow Queen.
Yeah,
I'm just really happy to see her here.
Yeah, again, none of this makes any fucking sense, but keep going. This world makes no sense at all, but keep going.
I love it. The Snow Queen turns up to be like, the vibe is off with this ballet. Like, Giselle hasn't killed herself yet, so like, something's wrong. So then she showcases her power where she freezes people like, more like the Ice Queen, the White Witch from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but still.
I mean, so I'm guessing normally there is another Giselle in this world, and every 4 hours
just exist when Barbie and Haley turn up.
Exactly. Or does it repeat every 4 hours that poor Giselle kills herself and gets turned into some kind of Slavic siren?
I think we've got to... I really want to see Giselle now. I think we've got to take this with like Lost in Austin rules. Like, to think that Hugh Bonneville and Alex, whatever, play out as Mr. and Mrs. Bennett for 3.5 hours, and then they reset when Gemma Arterton return. Like it's Lost in Austin rules. It's like, don't think about it.
I'm. When you've reminded me, I got the Wizard of Oz thing the first time I saw it. I had forgotten to, you just reminded me this time.
Mm-hmm.
So again, obviously that world didn't really exist either. That's all playing out in her head and things. So I'm
I'll give it. To have been given perhaps a bit more context as to why it's happening. So Alice in Wonderland is like a pure daydream, and the Wizard of Oz is like concussion. And they're both coming of age stories, and Barbie is 17 in this, so she doesn't need to come of age per se, and she doesn't get head trauma, and she doesn't doze off.
Again,
so
I'm gonna fix it for you.
Real, yeah.
I can fix it again. She puts the new shoes on. She hasn't worn them in. She falls over, hits her head, and then has this thing, right?
Yeah. But then we couldn't have Haley. It sort of needs to be magic in order to allow Haley to join us.
Although she could just have Haley could have been a replica Haley, same as everybody else. She could have been a little flower fairy or something.
True. Then she wouldn't get to be grounded.
True.
And the thing is, these shoes are knowingly given to her by this character who's, I think, the sister of the evil one, but she doesn't have a counterpart in the magic world. It's not like she's trapped by the evil sister. We don't learn more. I think, do you know what? I think this movie could have been done with being slightly longer and some characters fleshed out, and the idea. You're right. It's like just a couple of script revisions. Like they're onto something so wonderful, and it could just be so much better with small changes.
Because there's this genius high concept idea, right? And they could have had a little scene where they go through 5 other ballets, but just really quickly, you know, they're just there. Or
I did want more ballet. I did sit here thinking, we've already done Swan Lake in the Barbie universe. I'm not unhappy to see it here again. I'm delighted to see Giselle. I really want to go through Coppelia, and I'd love to go through the Red Shoes, and I'd love to go through.
Mate, and there was a little because there was a little Nutcracker turned up for 5 seconds, doesn't he?
For 5 seconds, yeah.
And I'd have been happy with this world, which is which is the the ballet cinematic universe patchwork world.
Literally.
And
like have the Nutcracker walk past Sleeping Beauty and like
in fact
have the magic flute go chatting next to Carmen. Like what the Chippendale Rescue Rangers is, where it's like the animated universe where they've just in every scene they've got like a character from South Park sat next to a character from Animal Farm. Like it's just so random and wonderful the way they flesh it out. Like Roger Rabbit, that's another example. And you're absolutely right, they could have done it more with ballet, and perhaps they did and we just didn't get the references, but I feel like they would have been more heavy-handed with it.
I mean remember the audience, but so they probably don't. Probably two or I mean, again, there's a song from Coppelia. So we've got the Snow Queen. Obviously, she's in it. We've got we do have the Nutcracker, or the main fella from the Nutcracker is in it. I think there's another couple. So there are bits there. Again, some for the adults, some for the children. And don't get me wrong. I think I complained I'd never heard of Giselle. If anyone has made a movie based on that story, throw it at me. Right, because I could not find anything, because I'm really in the story. Sounds fascinating, right?
Honest to God, I was hooked. I had to pause the movie to finish the Wikipedia page on Giselle. I was so obsessed.
But if someone could make a modern day Giselle, have you seen the film The Lure? The
yes, I have.
The Polish musical 80s mermaid. If the makers of The Lure could do a modern day-ish version of Giselle, I'd be all over that, because it's a fascinating story and there's a lot of darkness there, but I think you could do something with it. But I couldn't find even a movie version of the ballet or anything. It was really strange.
I know, it's so like stuck in one medium, really bizarrely, when you consider how often the other ballets have branched out, or they've come from other sources. Like Giselle is like, it was a ballet written to be a ballet, and it's remained a ballet forever and ever and ever. And it's like, it's such a good story. And
it's got a reputation of being a ballet of a certain, it's up there with Swan Lake and blah blah blah. And it's the way I read it is that Swan Lake's the one with great dancing and movement and choreography, but Giselle's the one that needs good acting.
Good acting. It's got a strong story, and I did also read that you probably did as well, that it does have some of the more complicated dances in it. And like just watching Barbie do that like flicky leg thing, like I do not know anything about ballet, but I was like, looks difficult.
Yeah, I think by you saying flicky leg thing meant the I don't know anything about ballet didn't need to be said. But you know more than me, mind you, because I was struggling to think of the word tutor a minute ago. So, but it's I just there is something here. Also, break everybody's hearts. This is going to be the last Barbie movie that will ever do anything like this. This is of the 45 which exist, that none of the next 20 are based in the world of ballet or anything sort of vaguely fantastical.
Margot Robbie better get in a tutu during the 2-hour runtime of that live action movie. I'm just in my head right now. Respect to her ancestors.
I'm imagining a TV show, a 13-part Barbie in Balletland TV show, where every week she, on her overarching quest, she goes through to a different ballet, and there's an interpretation of each ballet as she goes through it.
Oh my God, because we need to bring ballet to the masses anyway. It's still such a snobby art form.
I seem to remember as a child, and this is back when the world was black and white, and that ballet was on BBC Two. And we got to the bit where they're turned into swans and Hayley's still got her glasses on, because that's my favourite bit.
So they escape Giselle World and they send the 2 Ken love interests after them, and they stumble into Swan Lake World. And this whole time Barbie has been, whose name is Kristen in the movie, she's not actually Barbie. She's now changed into her Swan Lake outfit, which is gorgeous. And she's literally got different hair. It's so brave. It's like when Shrek 2 fully made Shrek not an ogre for like 70% of the movie. It's like, that is so brave. You've built this whole brand of Shrek being an ogre, and you're not going to have him as an ogre for the sequel. It's mad. And so they put Barbie in these outfits and changed her hair and her makeup each time. Like, the detail is amazing, and I just love that there's clearly like a look that these characters are meant to have. Like, no one knows what Elizabeth Bennet is meant to look like. It's not described in the novel, I don't think. And yet everybody knows what Elizabeth Bennet looks like. You never have a blonde Elizabeth Bennet. It just doesn't happen.
Jennifer Earle, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I thought in my head, every time I see Jennifer Earle in anything, I just think, oh, it's Elizabeth Bennet.
Lizzie Bennet. Yeah, it's iconic. You never see a blonde Elizabeth Bennet, and there's no reason why not. Other than the fact that, like, I don't know, social stereotypes. And so she's changing her appearance every time, and they get there, and Rothbart appears, and it's the dad from real life, and we get to see another wonderful dance. We're introduced to the main Ken is Prince Siegfried from Swan Lake, which is sweet. Because then it sets it up to, like, we'll go to the party. And then it's really fun to hear the guys from Giselle being like, my cousin, the prince from Swan Lake, has invited me, the prince from Giselle, to his party this evening. We should go. And you're like, this is amazing. This, like, cinematic universe of ballet. But Rothbart turns them into swans, and they're obviously, like, following the trope of... Actually, I think they go down the line quite well here. They're very sexy swans, but they're not, like, monstrous swans. Like, there's no elephant with mascara here. They're
not like the sexy Pegasus. No.
Yeah.
They remain feminine. Yeah. Although the boys, was it Hilarion and Albrecht?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah, something like that.
They just want to shoot them and eat them.
Yeah. Fully just like, let's blank, point blank, like he's 2 seconds away from this swan and he gets his bow and arrow out, like, oh, come on then, let's go.
There is this thing. So these two, I mean, they're sub-Kens, right? I'm guessing. Are they?
Yeah. They're not real Kens.
They're not
Ken
Ken
doesn't
Prime.
even look like Ken.
This is true, but basically in Giselle they're kind of rivals, and Albrecht's a dick, right? In Giselle, but one of the things this movie tries to do is it tries to rehabilitate the myth of Albrecht into actually he's all right, really.
Yeah.
Which is a bit weird considering in Giselle he's a dirty cheat who causes her to kill herself.
It's like if Barbie did Animal Farm and made, like, Napoleon and Snowball, like, good guys.
Sympathetic, yeah. It's
But
very
like,
weird.
4 legs good, 2 legs, like, also good, like, I don't know. Comedy
they're
for
all right.
everyone.
I realise they're all right, really. But Albrecht and Hilarion sort of form this weird double act. So whilst they're at odds with each other, as they're sort of riding around in a random direction, a bit like that wherever they go, they still end up meeting people who went off in literally the opposite direction to them.
Yeah.
They form this bond, like one's like a prince, one's a huntsman, and then we catch them, they're singing songs together, they're hunting together, and then they have this whole thing about these swans. Oh, yeah, we could kill the swans and eat it, and Albrecht can't even shoot straight, and then they say, oh, that could be a week's food, and you can make a nice pillow out of it. And, and they're just bonding so fucking hard. And I know that you like to LGBT, not just just
everything.
Everybody on the internet for Barbie movies loves to ship Barbie and her female companion.
Oh yeah.
Every time. And this movie's no change, looking at the Letterboxd reviews, but we're going to get there in a minute. This one, I absolutely see those two, and I just wish a little bit longer they could probably have moved on from Barbie and just gone and lived together in the woods. They are such besties and it's really rare to see a Ken character grow at all. So I remember in the last movie, Princess and the Pop Star. Was that the last one? I think it was.
Yeah.
Where the Ken character is so fucking redundant in that whole thing, and he always seems to be 5 hours behind everybody else in the plot. And this one, these sub-Kens are actually, although they're ripped from Giselle, that they do sort of grow and change as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
And they are creepy, but only in the sense that things were creepy in medieval times or whenever Giselle is set. There's a whole running joke about how old Barbie is and whether she's too old to be married.
Yeah. I'm not getting married. I'm only 17. Better late than never.
Yeah, because people did get married at 13 then, and I know that doesn't sit well with the modern world, but this movie is that's going to be some difficult questions for the parent watching it. Mummy, why is that funny? Well, you see, and then there's a bit about how long they've got to live, and the girl won't have as long to live as him. Oh, you've got a good 13 years left. And I did that kind of pseudo postmodernism that both Albrecht and Hilarion and Haley give to this. That is the highlight of this movie for me. Is that Shrek-like postmodernism, and I just actually, it's a shame this movie is a kids' movie, because I think, again, it's made me think about a lot of ideas. We could make a fucking good modern movie.
Oh my god, so much.
And we could put, I don't know, Anne Hathaway in it, and totally play with expectations about the stories of these movies. And anyway, they're not movies, they're ballets. Sorry everybody, but you know what I mean. But yeah, they get turned into swans, and Haley Swan's still wearing glasses. It's so cool. I loved that visual. Oh,
it's so fun. So Barbie's got like pink eyeshadow and Haley's got like green eyeshadow, but the swans, they learn to fly, so they fly over to the party where...
Oh, and they can't talk. Everyone just hears them honking.
Yeah. So he like keeps cutting to them being like... It's so good. And
again, some of the worst things on previous movies have been the fucking talking animals or the animal companion.
Yeah.
And here, they are the companion. They are... And the joke is that people can't hear them talking. And that they and it makes sense that they've got human characteristics because they are humans, and so it doesn't right all the wrongs, right?
No.
It's still, it's not. You've mentioned already the sexy elephant, and I've mentioned the sexy Pegasus. It's not righting those wrongs, but I think this does feel like a movie that's having a look back at the previous 24 and saying, wink, wink.
Yeah, it really does. It's so good. And we move into a really wonderful scene where Odile turns up and she's made to look like Barbie, and she starts the dance of the black swan, and it's so good. And then halfway through, Barbie Swan gets turned back into Odette, and we get a double black swan ballet. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that as a thing. I was like, yeah. So he's like dancing between the two black swans, and I just thought it was really, really fun. And then of course it means that she's able to then like break into her own dance moves, and he's like, it is you. And then Odile just runs off crying. But then the Snow Queen kidnaps Haley, and again her glasses are left behind, even though they did definitely get frozen onto her face. They somehow will then left behind. It's fine, we'll go over it. It doesn't matter. And we bump into the two boys again. So then we're all heading to the Snow Queen's cave, where it's fine. Like, she tries to make her dance in line with the choreography, and then Barbie keeps breaking free. I'll allow it. Oh, you're making me really dampen on this movie. We're doing the opposite of what usually happens. You're bringing me down, I'm not taking you up.
Well, actually, I am. The more I talk about it, I knew this would happen. I'm bringing it up because I'm remembering all the charming bits, whereas you're looking at the bits where it's. And I think I know where we're going to end up. right?
Okay.
And I think I was, because I was worried about the moral, and that's really been bugging me watching it the second time round. I did enjoy it more the first time, so I'm thinking. Anyway, we'll get to that bit in a minute. But yes,
Yeah. So we save the day. We get back to reality. It turns out that those two boys are actually the talent scouts. The showcase goes ahead, and Barbie gets given new shoes by Tara. She's like, "Oh, I suddenly remembered that I'm nice now. Here are my spare shoes." And it's like, "Okay, thank you for randomly changing your entire personality um to help out the plot. That's really handy." And Haley comes into her own as a costume maker by providing Barbie, who is meant to be doing a solo of the milkmaid, with a dress that looks like the stinking lily plant from wherever that, like, you know, that plant that blossoms every like 100 years or whatever, and it smells like dead animals.
yeah.
That's what the dress looks like. Nothing against the dress. The dress looks great, but that's what it reminded me of. And weird seeing Barbie blonde again, having not seen her blonde for like most of the movie. And she does the dance. She begins this dance with the cow, and then suddenly her outfit changes like she's in the Hunger Games. Like she twirls and it like shimmers into a completely new outfit, and then she just does her own bullshit, and the woman is like fine, even though before she'd been like, how fucking dare you. But she lets her get away with it. And then at the end, the talent scouts come up and they hand the positions to Ken and villain lady. And then they're like, "Barbie, we want you to work with us to create a new ballet." And she's like, "Hooray." And then the costume lady who gave the pink shoes in the first place takes them back, pops them in a cupboard full of lots of other pink shoes, I assume in different sizes. And then what? Is she just like this like ballet godmother who's like, whenever anyone's feeling down about themselves, I'm going to trap them in a frightening, tragic ballet world where they might end up as a wailing ghost if they don't run away from that particular scene in time? Like, and that way they'll know how to pursue their dreams going forward. You're welcome. And it's like, do you do that to all the 17-year-olds whose shoes break? Or just Barbie? Or like, tell me about the cupboard. What's going on?
Yeah, it does suggest, again, there's a whole TV show like The Twilight Zone, but it's like the Twilight Ballet, where, you know, there's a whole bunch of young girls over the years that have been sent on these missions to improve themselves by wearing these special shoes. Very weird. It's like, is it like in the X-Files where there's that room full of all the files, or there's another. What's the other one where? Like
Indiana Jones, the warehouse.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
it literally she could have stumbled across those shoes at the back of a cupboard. Like they were struggling in a ballet school to find a spare pair of size 5s, which is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Shout out to Barbie not having ridiculously too small feet, though. They easily could have given her size 3s, and they didn't. They gave her normal size feet. It's still small, of course. And they easily could have rummaged around and found them at the back of a drawer covered in dust, or like with a label on that says like "do not wear" or something. Like that could have been more exciting, because then we would have realized the threat more. And then the costume lady could have perhaps have accidentally put them on when she was their age, and maybe that was already implied, but I didn't quite get it. Maybe I'm projecting that. I don't know, there's just a lot more interesting ways they could have done this that seem more simplistic, but actually might have worked a bit better.
Again, it's a script revision away, isn't it? It's and you said earlier you wish it was a bit longer. I think that's the first time I've ever felt that as well.
Yeah,
because normally that sort of 75 minutes quite a sweet spot for me. That works for an animation.
Perfect. Yeah,
and I just think maybe that world, if they lent into it a little bit more and just tied a couple of bits up. So, in fact, most of the floor, I don't think many of the flaws I've mentioned have really been in the ballet world. They've all been in the
real world.
In the real world, it's the framing mechanism which is where, for me, it's gone wrong. In fact, you could have done this without any of the real world stuff. I mean, you wouldn't have got the Wizard of Oz idea of where everybody is somebody she knows, but...
Yeah, I kind of like that she's definitely... We sort of do need something around it. She needs to find the shoes and put them on. I like that she's entering into a world and we're not just living in ballet world. Like, I like that we're outsiders because it allows us to bring that grounded reality. Because what ends up being a primary factor of comedy is that juxtaposition between dramatic ballet characters who are wholly involved in their own world and drama and a down-to-earth modern person, that quippy 2010s like, oh, I am a person in a thing, to be met with, okay, chill your beans, or whatever. It's 2013, not like 2004, but still. I like that Hayley wore glasses years before Encanto as well.
I'm a big fan of girls in glasses.
I honestly, like, I had a bit of crush on her design as well. Her design is so beautiful. I would kill for a Barbie that was designed like her. She's so much more likable and enjoyable than the Barbie character. And her outfit was great with the, like, pulled up collar and the, like, short 60s-esque dress. Like, her hair was, like, bobbed in this really incredible way that you can only get away with in animation. Like, it was just so good. She was such a good character design. She was well animated, well voiced. She did everything she did made sense. She was funny. Like, she's just a great character. Just really happy to have her here.
Yeah, it's I mean, there have been some other goodies. I think the Princess Charm School 3 were kind of entertaining. So it's not we're not without precedents here, but she was the strongest character by far, and she's kind of also in a way a bit like the sort of the adult parent proxy. So you know, if your kid is empathizing with Barbie and she's the hero, then Hayley's like this sort of knowing older voice. While you're getting the leaderboard up, I've got a new thing. You know, like I used to go through all the things on Barbie movie wiki. That all the surprise. Well, I've got a new hobby now, which is looking at the reviews on Letterboxd, right?
Yeah.
I love this, right? And I'm just going to pick out a few of my favourites. There's quite a few. This one's by someone called Sydney. The Prince and the Bucket Guy wanted to kiss so badly. That's the entire review. There's a lot of people with my issues. Silly_Goose74. Where did the cow fucking go?
Yeah, I mean, I'll allow it.
I want 10 hours of Albrecht and Hilarion singing John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, which I do as well. The cowboy and Roman in Night of the Museum walked so the peasant and the prince and the pink shoes could run, which I quite like.
Where's my Prince and the Huntsman movie?
Marry me. Oh, here's a dead bird. Yes, that's the thing. Whether it goes...
an actual quote from the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody says this is the most underrated Barbie movie.
I agree.
So there's a couple of quotes. So this is by someone called Todd in curly brackets. So they give the film 3.5 stars. That's right, suck it, Ballet, you and your stupid rules. This is unhinged. If it's announced that the Barbie Cinematic Universe, brackets BCU, is an elaborate ruse being played on adults and children everywhere, then, and maybe only then, would all these films really start to make sense. Like the Barbie films always have strangely cogent and prescient analysis of social structure aligned side by side with horrid messages that reinforce some of the worst parts of our culture, and I don't understand how that happens. Low-key, one of the most anarchist films ever made.
Yeah! I'm here for it.
And I think I had to check that wasn't you. 1.5 stars, Polly. Just an hour of Barbie travelling around with 2 bottoms.
Love it.
Anyway,
Love
yeah,
it.
I really think the Hilarion Albrecht thing is definitely there. Right, so where are we with this bloody list? We got 24 of these fuckers.
I truly, I loved it. I loved it so much. I want it above Barbie of Swan Lake. I enjoyed it more than a fashion fairy tale. And I want to put it between Mermaidia and Charm School, but I worry that you'll think that that's too high.
I think that's a little too high. However, this has been quite a therapeutic session because the core of it is flawed. Absolute core of this movie is flawed, right? But it's put me on so many flights of fancy about certain things. I'm more than happy to put it in the top 10. All right. I also think that it is better than Swan Lake, but I really like Fashion Fairy Tale.
Yeah, I think I'm forgetting. I very easily forget how much I enjoyed one.
I'm happy. Although when we came in, I was going to chuck this down in the. It's not. I never thought it was horrible, right? This is not Thumbelina. This is not Diamond Castle. This is not A Perfect Christmas, right? I honestly think that the lowest acceptable movie on this list is Princess and the Pop Star, all right? I think we had our issues with it, but that's the base level of acceptability. So it was never going to be down at 19. Actually, I do wonder if Swan Lake's maybe even a bit high. Anyway,
it's lasted a long time. It's done a really good job considering it was part of the three colours, like to stay up that high.
And I can't help thinking we've been giving it
a pass.
Well, I think because we've allowed so many of those other early ones to fall down.
Yeah.
You know, where's Nutcracker, for fuck's sake?
It's poor Nutcracker. It's down here next to Island Princess.
Which is a film I liked and you didn't, so this is my revenge. It's not as good as Three Musketeers, I'm sorry. It's not as good as Princess and the Pauper, which I guess that's the classic one that we're knowing. I'm happy to put this at number 7, after Mariposa and above Fashion Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
Change my mind.
Yay!
Yeah, I Haley alone and some of the jokes and the fact I wanted to go. I'm really interested in Giselle now, the story.
Yeah,
and I have done an impassioned plea to democratise ballet.
Yes,
which I've got to say, none of the other ballet films did. This is the best ballet film, right?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good at this stage to be entering the top 10 because it is tough competition. I feel like every week it's like, oh, actually that was really good, and then as you say, every now and then we'll get one that's just like, oh my god, what happened?
Yeah, so well done, but no, much less gimmicky. Do you remember we've had the ones with the one that remote control toy that acts with the DVD? I think we're seeing things are about to change in the movies. Is my feel. I'm not sure when this era is considered to be over. But I think we're getting there.
Same. I think we're moving more into that sort of Netflix territory.
We are. We've got a few yet. So next up is a movie I'm actually quite looking forward to.
Oh yeah, what's next?
It's a reboot of a reboot. It's Barbie, Mariposa and the Fairy Princess. And on my DVD there was a little trailer for it, and it did look nice and colourful. So a sort of return, I think, again for our. I think the next one basically, so next one's the 25th mainline movie, and I think that's the end of. So this is our last dancing movie. I think the next one's our last fairy tale type movie, although there is another mermaid one to come.
Oh, okay. Mermaid Core will never die.
Yeah, but I think I'm looking forward to this.
Great. Well, see you next time.